Um, Thanks to all of you that decided to turn up today. It's always a pleasure to have people turn up on a Saturday when they could be doing other things and, coming to learn more about, interesting crops such as hemp. My name is Monobe Ogbechi. I'm the president of the Pan-African Industrial Hemp Association, and I'm going to be talking more about our organization over the course of this webinar. And today I'm joined by Brenda Gordon, who is the founder of Monoshe. Am I pronouncing that right, Brenda? Monoshe or Monoshe?
You said it right the first time, Monoshe.
Monoshe, yes. Yeah, she's going to introduce herself, halfway through the presentation. But she specializes in sort of eco fashion and textiles, but she'll give you a history of what she's done in the past and how she came to hemp. So a bit about us, the Pan-African Industrial Hemp Association. So we are essentially the go-to organization for industrial hemp in Africa. Our three main pillars are to educate, advocate, and innovate. So we want to educate people about hemp, let them know the difference between hemp, industrial hemp, and marijuana, push it forward as a sustainable crop for Africa. We also want to advocate. We want to, talk with policymakers, talk about how we can legalize hemp in the right way, so that the average African is not left out of the equation as well, and innovate. So we share knowledge, not just to share for the sake of sharing it, but also so that people can come up with new ideas, and we bring businesses and entrepreneurs together to create new solutions using this fantastic crop that has many uses. And we'll talk about hemp as a crop in a minute, but I put this other thing here about Africans will not be left out. That's one of the most important things to us in this organization. There is a sort of green rush, as some people would call it, or green revolution. And I'm not talking just about sustainability. I'm talking specifically about the cannabis plant. There's billions of dollars that are being pushed into this industry. And we don't want it to be another situation where, Africans are left out. We want to be right at the forefront. We want to be there moving with the rest of the world, in terms of knowledge, and also in terms of ownership. So we want the African people to own companies that operate this crop. We don't want just, although we value and we appreciate foreign investment, we also want indigenous ownership. So that's one thing we push for. And also we want legalization that's going to benefit the average African individual, like I said earlier. There's a lot of big companies, there's a lot of Canadian and American and European companies that are going into Africa, but we want to work with these companies, but we also want to work with people on the ground, because we do believe that a mutually beneficial partnership is possible. So it doesn't mean that if we're going to be pushing for indigenous ownership, that multinationals will be left out and vice versa. And so, yeah, we're open to collaboration. We want to work with people that are working in hemp all across the value chain, and we'll talk about the different parts of the value chain in a minute. But we're not just talking about the farmers, we're talking about the processors, we're talking about the professional services, lawyers, marketers, etc., etc. And we work with all different parts of the hemp plant. And so we don't just work with companies and governments, we also work with NGOs. So our email is there, and I'll be sharing the Telegram link later on during this sort of webinar, so that you people can join the chat that we've been having, and it's been an interesting chat nonetheless. So moving on to what is hemp. So some of you might not be that familiar with hemp, so it'll be good to just kind of give that broad and brief understanding of hemp. So hemp comes from the cannabis sativa plant. Both hemp, when I say hemp, I'm referring to industrial hemp. So both the hemp plant and the marijuana plant, the one that we know as marijuana or weed or whatever, both come from cannabis. But the difference is that the industrial hemp plant has a negligible amount of THC. So the THC is essentially the psychoactive component, meaning that's the part of the plant that can get you high, essentially. So that's the main difference between the industrial hemp plant. And they are grown differently, they look different, and they're bred differently. So we are the Pan-African Industrial Hemp Association. We're not the Pan-African Cannabis or Marijuana Association. So we're particularly pushing for industrial hemp. So moving on, 1 second, let's just move this out of the way. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So many uses of hemp. So there's up to 50,000 uses. So it's a very, very versatile plant. And I like to say sometimes, you know, the marijuana advocates kind of get put off by it, but, you know, hemp has many different uses. And marijuana is not as versatile as the hemp plant. So, you know, hemp can be used for fiber and textiles and paper making, insulation, compost. I mean, you can see a whole gamut of different things, you know. One of the biggest potential industries for hemp is actually in the construction industry and the hempcrete product. So using hemp as a building material. You know, a lot of car companies today, BMW, Mercedes, etc., they use hemp as a sort of fiber for their cars. So for their particle boards, etc., etc. So, and also the first ever, or one of the first cars made by Henry Ford. A lot of you would know about Ford Motors, which was founded by Henry Ford. One of his first cars was made entirely from hemp. So the actual body of the car was made from hemp. And there's a lot of reasons for this, because hemp is a very, the fiber is very strong and it's very lightweight as well. So the fact that these car companies are using hemp is not just because it's a sustainable plant, but it has other features and other characteristics, such as the lightweight and the strong, or the strength of it. And then the seeds can be used for oil, for eating. You know, it's one of the highest protein plant-based sources. It can be used to make a variety of sort of dietary supplements. Some of you might have heard of CBD, which is an extract from the hemp plant as well. And biofuels and so many other things. I mean, to be honest, this call is not enough to be able to talk about all the many benefits of the hemp plant. So, but today we're focusing on the uses in the hemp, on the fashion industry. So we're talking about the hemp fiber. And Brenda as well will go over in more detail actually about the hemp plant and how it's used. So I won't stay too long on that point. And then finally, you know, you don't have to be a farmer. I put this slide here because a lot of people think that, you know, if you want to be involved in the hemp industry, you have to, you know, buy a bunch of land and, you know, start growing the crop. But to be honest, there's many industries or verticals that are associated with the same crop. So yes, you can be involved in the production side, genetic breeding, growing of the crop, cultivation, etc. But you can also be doing the processing. So you could be making the hemp shiv, which is a material that is used to make the hempcrete. You can be involved in, you know, fabric processing. You can be involved in CBD. You can be involved in so many products, you know, the hemp seeds as well. You know, some of you might have heard of Manitoba Harvest. They're one of the biggest sort of hemp food product companies in the world. So, and again, distribution, lawyers, we need a lot of lawyers in this industry, especially when it comes to advocacy side of things, digital marketing. The hemp industry, because it's termed as a high risk industry, there's a lot of new niche companies that specialize in the cannabis and hemp industry. So if you're involved in digital marketing, hemp is a great industry for you to get involved in finance, etc., real estate. There's so many different side verticals that you can get involved in. So I'm just putting this slide in here for you guys that, you know, maybe you're not necessarily involved in fashion, maybe you're not necessarily involved in, you know, growing or agriculture. There's many other side industries. If you have any skills, it can be applied to this growing cannabis industry. So I'm going to pass things over to Brenda. Brenda is going to talk about herself. She's going to talk about her, you know, how she got into hemp and her history, her work history, etc. And hemp in particular relation to the sustainable fashion industry. So Brenda, feel free to unmute yourself, and, you know, when you want me to go to the next slide, just give me a heads up.
Oh, we will do. Thank you, Monoshe, and welcome everybody to the webinar. Really pleased that you've all come along to hear information about how hemp is progressing in Africa and how this will affect the fashion industry as a whole. I've been in the industry for over 30 years. Fashion, as people know, it is probably over mass produced. Everything seems to be 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 of everything. And then mostly using synthetic fibres and things like that, not necessarily any fabric that is biodegradable. So one of the beauties that I found with the hemp fabric is that it's 100% biodegradable, which is amazing. Can we go to the next slide there, please? And the next one. Okay, so I just wanted to discuss a bit about how sustainable fabrics is really, really important in fashion at the moment. As I said before, garments are just so overproduced and they just get dumped and filled into landfill, and they just don't biodegrade, they just stay there. You know, and people don't really treasure their garments as they used to. You know, they overproduce and dump things. So as you can see there, this is the picture all over the world where fashion is just like, it's like a throwaway sort of culture. So the reason why I've come across hemp is because, like I said, after growing into the fashion industry, you know, factories just seem to get bigger and bigger. You know, it's like a big sort of treadmill where people don't stop and think about the environment at all. So I understand how the mass production of garments and how people go and shop and how they retail is really this sort of chain of thought. But I think that over the past 5 years, I've noticed a change. It's a very slow change where people are starting to think more about, you know, what they're buying, what they're wearing, and how this affects the environment. And I've been doing the same. So I've been doing a lot of sourcing and looking out for fabrics that perform in the sense where they do have longevity. You know, if you make and buy a garment, you know, it's comfortable, it's wearable, you know, you can make it up in the same factories, and it has like a versatility to it. So one of the fibres that I found was that hemp, and I know that Monoshe has described a lot of things where you could use the hemp fibre for, but hemp just came across to me as one of those fibres that would be classed as a super fibre because it just has so much versatility. Can I go to the next screen, please? Okay, so I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the fibre itself. And I know that Monoshe has described where the plant comes from and which strain of the plant that we use. And obviously, in terms of producing fibres and fabric, we used and utilised the cannabis sativa fibre. And the good thing about this fibre, in comparison to many other fibres such as cotton and things like that, it grows really well. It's easy to produce. It uses less water, you know, and it's kinder to the soil. And it's one of those plants as well that will grow in virtually any country. So it's not reliant on temperature or anything like that. It just seems to perform really well. So that's quite good about it, is it doesn't need pesticides or any fertilizers or chemicals to grow, because it just has the power to grow really quickly. So it has a really good high level of sustainability that we feel in the fashion industry is quite useful. So in terms of actually producing fibres that we use for fabric, once the yarns, once the stems are harvested, obviously they go through a process of retting. So it's a bit of a session of a portion at a time of decomposing, basically, just so that it exposes the centre part of the yarn, which we can use to make and turn into fabric. Now this process is called retting. Okay, so it spends you know, a few months, you know, just laid down and sometimes in water, just to expose these fibres, which is then used to turn into fabric. So it's a process of separation, where then it's carded and produced into fabric fibres. The next screen, please. So not only is the yarn that grows well, it actually is very good in terms of performing as a fabric when you're wearing it as well. So it's got great breathability. You know, it's got really good wicking properties. It's antifungal and antibacterial, and it also offers, you know, really good UV protection. You know, and it's a very good strong fibre. Which holds itself together, because you do have some fibres that, you know, you really need to have to combine them with something else to make them perform and stand up, but hemp does that really well on its own. So there's some great good benefits in terms of actually wearing it as a garment as well as it growing as a fibre. So I just wanted to speak a bit more about also the versatility of the fibre. So once it's produced into a fibre, you know, there's no stopping it. You know, you can produce denim, bridal satins, georgette, taffeta. You know, it's really unbelievable what you can actually produce with the yarn. Sometimes it's combined with organic cotton just to give it a slightly hand feel in some cases. I mean, I have lots of material here where it's combined with silk, but then it's kind of like you probably expect, well, there's a higher proportion of the silk to be there, but I do have materials where you have 70% hemp and you have a 30% silk, or the same with, you know, you'll have like a high percentage of hemp and then, like I say, a 30% organic cotton. So I think people have a misconception that hemp will be a very coarse fabric, you know, that it's uncomfortable to wear and that sort of thing. But it's very versatile in that sense that the amounts of different types of fabric you can produce with it, and therefore the different types of garments will follow as well. So that's another amazing fact about this fabric. So that's just this screen just to show you the different sorts of different garments that you can actually make. So you know, I have bridal silks with hemp here. There's suiting, you know, that you can make. So suits, shirts, gym wear, you know, anything, sportswear, you know, has that ability to sort of like spread across and do all sorts of things. Next screen, please.
Next one.
Yeah, please. So I'll just show a few more. Sorry, I've got it all on my screen here and clicking and not realising it. Yeah, so you can go to the next screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the versatility is, I would say, is quite endless. You know, and if you combine it with other sustainable yarns as well, such as Tencel or organic cotton, silks, you know, there's so much more possibilities out there, and there's really no excuse not to use it, as far as I'm concerned. Next screen, please. Okay, so I just wanted to sort of like reflect a little bit on the cost of actually using hemp in comparison to, let's say, your basic cotton garments. I mean, at the moment, because it's still relatively sort of new and an up-and-coming yarn, it does work out much more expensive comparison to like a cotton garment. So I just wanted to sort of like show you how much more it would cost. I mean, in terms of actually sourcing hemp at the moment, when I first started looking out for it, it was very difficult to find, and it was very, very expensive. But as time goes on, as people become more in tune to, you know, different fabrics and clothing and things like that, where they could use this sort of yarn, people start looking out for it and start to buy it, which makes it more popular. And that also drives the prices down a little bit. But at the moment, I would say it's probably at the high end in terms of pricing. And obviously, once it starts to grow and get more popular, then it will become more cheaper. So that's just an example there. Okay, so that's basically just what I wanted to sort of like touch base on in terms of how I feel about using hemp in the future, and how I'm sort of trying to promote that into people's minds, actually, that is a really good option if you're looking for a replacement for any fabric, really. And there's so many options out there, and in terms of the fashion industry, that really does need these sorts of options to going forward, rather than looking at things like carry on using polyester, which to me is plastic. You know, it's just a great thing for everybody to be looking to be using and selecting as an option.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much, Brenda. That was an enlightening presentation. I think, you know, first thing, I just wanted to ask a couple questions just before we head on to the questions in the chat.
Okay.
You know, I'm sure from your experience with China, obviously China does a lot of things and they do it on a very big scale. And so I guess my question is, you know, how can African growers or companies compete with, you know, a behemoth like China? You know, they probably have been doing it for a longer time, and they probably have the capabilities to do it at scale. So how can African individuals, companies, etc., compete in the hemp fabric industry with the Chinese?
Well, I think they just need to sort of learn and be as versatile as they can, to be honest. I mean, I feel that Africa is sort of at the tip of the iceberg of being able to be organic with anything, to be honest. So it's kind of like starting from an organic standpoint and also making sure that everything is certified so that everybody is clear to everybody what they're getting. So it's definitely, you know, they've got the land, they've got the sunshine, you know what I mean, and I do believe they've got the capability. You know, competing with China is always going to be difficult for anyone anyway, but you need to start. And, you know, I just feel that in terms of growing this crop, I do feel it's something that Africa can do very well. And, you know, and actually starting to look at producing fabric and all the other things that you described earlier that, you know, you use hemp for. You know, because I've also got some samples of buttons that I came across. So really, in terms of actually making the garment, I can line the garment, I can trim the garment with buttons and all sorts of other accessories that I want to, with things that are made out of hemp. So I can go completely biodegradable with that. So I believe that's something that Africa can tap into, which is actually a growing market for these sustainable fabrics. So they can compete with China in that way, because I just feel that if you go to China, these fabrics are available, but they're available to like an elite market in a way. You know, you need to buy like massive quantities of it and things like that. So if Africa could do things on a more versatile way, where they could supply small demands and big demands, that's one way that they could sort of like go for this. There's a lot of small companies want to actually use it because of the high volumes that China produces. It's very difficult to start and sort of like say, well, this is what we want to do.
Awesome.
So, yeah, so the African market, you know, they're ready. I feel where there's a market where they can tap into right now if they could be as versatile as possible.
Awesome, awesome. And can I just say, I remember when I first met you was at the Hemp and CBD expo, and the dresses that you made, I was, because I thought I was a hemp advocate, but I was very, very impressed. I was like, you can make this from hemp? I saw like wedding dresses and everything. I was like, wow, like I was very, very impressed. You need like some sort of online collection. Like I love your website as well. But yeah.
Yeah, well, that was the plan for the event, actually, to show what you could actually do with hemp, so that people will understand it better than it being the material that you would use for carpets or furniture or rugs and things like that, a really heavy thick material. So I just thought, well, okay, I can make a bridal dress out of this fabric. You know what I mean? And it's got a really high hemp content into it. So that was the impression that I wanted to give, that, you know, oh, look, I can make, you know, so the next step, and I know we've discussed this before, is to actually go for making some hemp tailored suits out of some of this fabric, and really show what's possible.
Awesome, awesome. I know you guys are keen to get your questions through, but just a couple more from me, and then we'll head on to yours. So yeah, in terms of the industry, it's been moving forward quite a bit. I know that Levi's was doing like a hemp pair of jeans, and then just today I saw an article that Nike partnered with a UK store called Size. It's called Size with a question mark, and they're on like Carnaby Street in London, for those of you based in London. And they just did a collaboration making a hemp shoe. So things are actually moving forwards, and the fact that the bigger players are getting involved would also move things forward as well, in my opinion. And I think that, you know, also another thing that you might not have mentioned, phytoremediation. So you mentioned about how the hemp plant doesn't need pesticides and herbicides, but another very interesting point for the listeners, from an agricultural point of view about hemp, is phytoremediation. And that just basically means that hemp has the ability to take the toxins out of the soil, which is very, very interesting. So for keeping your land fertile, for using hemp as a rotational crop, hemp is an amazing, amazing crop. And also it puts nutrients back in the soil. So this crop never stops, you know, surprising me with its many, many benefits. And you mentioned something about gym wear. Have you seen this being done yet? Is this something that's kind of a conceptual thing? That's very interesting, because there's a company in the UK called Gymshark, and they're like a multi-billion dollar company now, I think, and they just sell gym wear. So is that a potential route?
Well, it is definitely. I mean, obviously, in terms of getting things like fleece, things for t-shirts and PKs and things like that, of course that's possible. But then obviously, if you are okay with wearing lycra as well, I've got fabrics where it's combined with lycra and it's not a problem whatsoever, or you can combine it with bamboo, you know, and do gym wear. So yes, it's possible already.
Wow, that's super interesting, because I know that there's a particular audience or market that overlaps with the sustainability market that are quite keen gym goers and have that kind of spending power as well. So there's a very interesting potential there. Okay, so I'm gonna go on to the questions. I don't want to take this whole thing to myself. So the first question was, what's your brand doing to get hemp legalized in Nigeria? What awareness have you created to educate people of the benefits of hemp? Yeah, great question, Sylvester. So I'm personally running the Panafrican Hemp Association. So we're working on a sort of African level, but you know, there's a gap. You know, we've been looking for people to, I mean, there is something in the works for a Nigerian Hemp Association, but we need people to work with us. We need more people on the ground that are ready to help us with advocacy and marketing and all that kind of stuff. So if you are interested, please drop us an email at info@pa-iha.com. We want to create a Nigerian hemp association as well, so that we can start educating people about it. You know, CBD is in Nigeria right now, although it's a sort of gray market, but you know, it's being sold. So we need to educate people more about it. And you know, it's not just CBD, it's the hempcrete, really, the construction industry, and you know, Dangote made his billions from concrete. So why can't we also make a multi-billion-dollar company from Nigeria that does you know, hempcrete? So it's a sustainable alternative. Hempcrete, it's got breathable walls. If you've got respiratory problems, hempcrete is a great alternative. You know, it traps carbon sequestrian, so it traps in the CO2 in the cultivation process, as well as, you know, when it's trapping in the CO2 when you're building the wall. So it's another subject altogether, but hemp it needs to be advocated more in Nigeria. I completely agree with you. And also, if you're on the more like sort of marijuana side, Nigeria is the highest consumer of marijuana in the whole of Africa. So yeah, Nigeria needs to wake up to the industrial hemp plant. So if you are interested, please you know, drop me an email, and then I'll drop my email also in the chat, so in case you guys forget. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, Sylvester. Lisa asks, do you have a link or info with details of mills selling the hemp textiles? I think that one's for you, Brenda. Do you happen to have a link or information on mills selling hemp textiles?
Right, I don't have a link such as that, because I mean, obviously I'm looking into Africa to see where the producers are there. I mean, there are obviously producers and mills in China that I know of, but the main thing is obviously I use those as part of my sourcing business. But really, I'm looking to source hemp fabrics from Africa, so I'm quite keen to know that information as well. To be honest, I mean, I'm hoping that this webinar can throw up that information as well, so that we can all tap into that.
Awesome. And we are doing stuff for the Pan-African Hemp Association. So we're connecting with guys in Zimbabwe and South Africa and Lesotho, and really trying to find new opportunities and start new projects. So if you follow our Telegram, which I will be dropping very soon in the chat, you'll be able to sort of follow our chat, and we'll update you guys on, you know, interesting projects that we're doing across Africa. So watch this space. There's going to be very interesting stuff going on in 2021. The next question, how do you feel about the chemicals used to make hemp fibers and fabrics more soft? Brenda, you might be able to answer that.
I feel that there's more of a natural process that goes on in actually, because obviously the retting process starts it off by actually extracting the fibers, and then obviously there's some use in chemical production in every fabric whatsoever. So that's an important question that we're looking into and it's no more chemicals than that's used in any other product, but I don't think it's used as extensively as it is in other fibres, especially production of like polyester and things like that. So it is a concern, but because I know that most fabrics gets produced with some form of chemicals, that and most fabrics are always, if you work with a really good mill, and if they're OEKO-TEX registered, and then the chemicals aren't deemed to be harmful what are used. So that is a concern once, if Africa starts to produce this fabric, how to actually get it to a soft hand feel without actually breaching any hazardous chemical laws.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope that answers your question, SK. I hope that I pronounced your name right. Jacqueline asks, what's the processing of actually making hemp, and how realistic is it for doing this in Africa? I think what's the process of what you meant? Okay, I asked, from the weight of cotton, the need for fields to ginneries to mills is already limited and needs investment. So I guess you're asking, how realistic is it in Africa? What's the process of making hemp? And yeah.
Sorry. Hi, Brenda. Just wanted to quickly jump in. I'm Jacqueline. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, hi, Jacqueline.
I didn't make it very clear. Okay, so just understanding like how the cotton industry works and the steps to process it from the cotton boll to an actual fibre to textile. When it comes to hemp, that same process, excuse me if I missed a little bit if you said it earlier, but yeah, just the challenges in Africa with the limiting ginneries and mills on the continent, and replicating something like this with hemp, how realistic is that, knowing that already with cotton is challenged? So, and just the process of how it's done into a textile. Thank you.
Okay, I don't believe that it's any different to producing a lot of the other fibres that Africa already produces, and that's the beauty of hemp, as it can actually just slot into using a lot of the same machinery in terms of weaving and knitting. So, you know, once the yarn gets to the stage where it's, you know, you can knit it and weave it, you know, that process isn't any different at all. But I don't feel that it's a negative thing if Africa actually steps up to the plate and gets into the mix, and that can actually solve the challenge of taking it from the crop to the yarn stage. You know what I mean? Because obviously I've got, this is like hemp cart yarn at the moment, and you know there's lots of different yarns that are available, like banana, pineapple, and things like that start like this. But then once it gets to the weaving and knitting stage, you know what I mean? I don't think it's any more difficult to any other fibre that Africa weaves and knits right now.
Awesome. I hope that answers your question. And then also from a kind of strategic point of view, we can look at African countries that are already investing a lot in the sort of fabric and textile industry. I know Kenya is doing quite a bit. I know Lesotho is doing a bit. I know that I don't know if Burkina Faso is. I know they grow a lot of cotton, but I don't know if they have a lot of machinery and they mechanize things. So I think it's about, you know, going to these countries and going to these factories and seeing which ones we can partner with rather than building from scratch, working with these already existing mills. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I don't think it's a process of starting from scratch. I think it's just adapting what's already there. So it's not, you know, it's not. I don't see it as a dire situation. I see it as a massive opportunity. That's how I see it.
Great. What's the next question? What's your opinion on cottonized hemp? As I've been told by experts, the hemp is made softer by chemicals and basically taking away almost all characteristics of the raw materials.
Well, many like say in terms of a t-shirt or something like that, where you would have an organic cotton content of say 45, and then you have a hemp content of 55. You know, and then that combination is there because it makes it feel softer to the skin. Whereas, like if you did like 100% cotton jersey, it would probably be a little bit coarser. So you know, there's benefits in actually making that combination. But once, in terms of doing like a woven hemp, I mean, I have some woven hemps here that are just so soft, 100% hemp. You know, it's pliable, it's not stiff, it's not hard. You can make jackets and suits out of it. You know what I mean? So there's those sorts of combinations where, you know, instead of making the yarn so soft with chemicals, once you combine it with some other yarns that are acceptable and biodegradable as well, they give you the hand feel that you know you're happy with to wear, or you know, you can leave it as raw hemp to do other things, which they do now to make furniture and cushions and carpets and things like that. So in terms of making it soft enough for you to wear, there's always a trade-off in terms of mixing it with other fibres. Just, you know, and some people, that's what they prefer, and that's what they want to wear. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, why not do it? And instead of not doing it and not having something that would be, you know, more realistic to what people wear. I mean, the thing is, it's still in competition with polyester. So it's like, at the moment, it's still in competition with those man-made fibres that we buy, wash and wear all the time and think, oh yeah, this is great. So it's got that up against it, as it's still in competition. So I think in terms of us understanding the yarn itself and how it can perform and things like that, it's mixed with yarns that we know and understand already. So that's one reason why it's all added to others as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that. What's the biggest barriers and obstacles you're experiencing with developing a hemp industry in Africa? To be honest, education. I think that's the sort of the main thing, is just getting people to know, first of all, what the difference between hemp and marijuana is. I mean, there might be some people on this call that might not have known that. So, you know, even myself, you know, it took a while for me to know that. So we all have to re-educate and, you know, take away the stigma that's attached to, you know, marijuana, because there's a lot of people that are very passionate about industrial hemp that are completely against marijuana. So the two are actually separate issues and separate subjects. You know, I know a lot of people that, you know, have never smoked in their life, but they just want to do industrial hemp projects and, you know, make clothes and build stuff. So it's all about education, educating people about the difference between the two, educating people about cannabis in general and its many uses. So hopefully after this call, you guys can share the recording with your friends and loved ones and your network, and they can learn a bit more. And, you know, that's really the first thing that's stopping us. And then secondly is advocacy. You know, getting the governments, and that's part of education as well, getting them to know about hemp, the potential for, you know, the tax revenues and, you know, the industries that can be built from hemp. So it's all, mainly 90% of it is to do with the knowledge and education. And then once that's done, I think everything else will just fall into place. And that kind of leads on to the next question that was asked by Robin Murray, like Ghana is legalized hemp. So Ghana's at the final stages. So they're just looking to pass a legislative instrument, but, you know, we've got the Hemp Association of Ghana, which has been advocating for a long time. You know, we as the Pan-African Industrial Hemp Association, my partner is currently in Ghana doing some work, you know, with Hempcrete. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on ahead of the full legalization in Ghana. And then also we're looking at countries that have already fully legalized it. You know, we've got Zimbabwe. We're having a webinar with a gentleman from the Zimbabwe Industrial Hemp Trust. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, but I think Ghana is going to be a really interesting one, obviously because of its proximity to America and Europe as well. And the government is being quite forward thinking and investing a lot, and, you know, the whole year of return thing. So there's a lot of interesting things, and there's a mixing pot going on currently in Ghana. So it's definitely a country to look out for in the next coming years. So yeah, definitely Ghana, you know, do your research. It's a great opportunity, especially now because it's not fully legalized. So, you know, you can start setting the foundation, start having those conversations, start speaking with investors, etc., etc. Okay, is there anywhere in Africa where they offer hemp-related courses? Great question. Actually, I forgot the name, but in South Africa, there is a I think it's cannabis in general, so it's hemp and marijuana, but that they do offer a course, and I can't remember the name, but if you join us on Telegram, I will share the link. I literally shared it the other day. But yeah, there's hemp courses. We're actually thinking about doing one ourselves with the Pan-African Industrial Hemp Association, everything from, you know, the sort of cultivation to processing and all that. So we are definitely working on courses. Please keep us posted on how we can help in your task. For sure. Join us on Telegram. We're going to be doing a lot of conversations and posting about our next meetings and webinars and all the work that we're going to be doing with hemp. And yeah, I mean, does anyone else have any other questions? Because that's all the questions I have in the chat. I have a couple more just generally for Brenda, but if you've got any more questions, please drop them in the chat. I guess if that's all the questions from everyone else, I guess, you know, Brenda, to you, you might have touched on this in your presentation, but I'll be keen to know, you know, why you particularly are interested in getting into hemp in Africa and why, you know, Africa in particular.
I think one of the main reasons is because I know that it's such a big opportunity, and you know, you can feel like something's growing. Yeah. And I just want, yeah, I can just feel it growing, and I just want Africa to be part of it. I just want Africa to be able to create some sort of wealth there from this product, because I just feel, in terms of obviously the average person going out there and looking for a retail item made of a sustainable fabric, particularly hemp, you know, that sort of market is growing, and I just feel that Africa could just tap into that growing market right now, and that's what I'm eager for. So, you know, as part of my sourcing business, you know, I want to be able to say that I can source some hemp textiles from Africa. That's what I really want to do. You know, so that's my kind of, I don't know, my sort of MO, I suppose, at the moment, in terms of hemp, and sort of like waiting to see if I can get some African hemp in my hands and make some products and some garments, you know, for my customers, and for, you know, for my own brand, to say, well, I've done it with some African hemp. So it's really important for me, because I just want Africa to create some wealth from this product.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And I think that's the sentiment is the same with us. You know, we don't want Africa to be left behind. We want to be at the forefront of you know, hemp, whatever it is, sustainability, and the fashion industry. So, you know, it's all about this education. It's all about getting people to know what it is and the potentials for hemp. And, you know, I'm really, really looking forward to what's going to happen over the next couple of years. I don't believe that hemp is going to be another crop that Africans are going to be left behind on, another technology that we're left behind on. We just need to push it, and then use hemp in all aspects of our lives. Thank you very much, guys, for staying till the end. To the person that just joined, you literally just missed the whole thing, but there will be a recording. So join us on Telegram. We'll be sharing the recording on there. Any other questions, drop us an email, join us on Telegram, drop your questions on there. We'll be very happy to have you guys on board. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your Saturday, guys. And yeah, we'll see you on the next webinar. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.